introduction, Emma. That was absolutely amazing. So very short presentation today because this was sprung on me late last night and I don't have any slides or anything like that, but we're going to have a chat today about something that's really close to my heart and presumably probably also close to Emma's heart as well, I would be guessing, which is the gut-brain, and I like to add skin in there, axis. So a lot of us probably don't really know, and I know I didn't know much about this until I started delving a bit more into this kind of thing either. So a lot of us probably don't know that there's something called the enteric nervous system. So a lot of us probably know about our central nervous system, which is our brain and our spinal cord that obviously runs down our spine, and obviously all the nerves that shoot off our spine and go down to our fingers and drive all of our movement and help us to feel things and that kind of thing, help us to see, think, all the rest of it. So a lot of us know about that, but what we don't often know about is the enteric nervous system. So the enteric nervous system is made up of a whole lot of cells, or well, mainly two layers of cells that line our gut. And it also includes or interrelates to our gut microflora. So some people might think of it as a little bit of a gross topic, but our gut microflora is just so important, and our enteric nervous system is so important. And we've got this big nerve that runs up our spinal column called our vagus nerve. Now, if you've done any yoga and that kind of thing, you may have heard of some of the breath work and that kind of thing we do in yoga and meditation as, affecting or stimulating the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve actually comes down and communicates between our brain and our gut. So there really is actually something to it. When we say we're getting a gut feeling about something or someone, there is really something to it. So our enteric nervous system and the vagus nerve is communicating up to our brain, and there actually really is something to it. So the other thing is, obviously with this, our nutrition and how we're treating our body is so important. And I mean, I'm not going to harp on about that because Emma is obviously the expert in that. But how we treat our gut and what we're putting into our bodies in terms of food and that kind of thing affects our enteric nervous system. Because the majority of our serotonin and a lot of neurotransmitters are actually produced by the gut, not by the body. So with those, things like serotonin that help us feel good, with a lot of that being produced by the gut, if we're not treating our gut right and, eating nutritious food and that kind of thing, it's going to decrease our serotonin levels in our body. And that's going to make us feel like, well, to be polite, feel terrible. And it can help, or it can actually increase levels of anxiety and depression and things like that we've typically thought of as mood or mental health type conditions, but they can be so affected by what we're eating and our nutrition. And things like stress and anxiety and that kind of thing as well, they can also cause us to, frown, which uses a lot more muscles in our face. They can cause us to screw our face up and that kind of thing, which can cause more wrinkles. And let's face it, a lot of us women are piling on the anti-aging skincare creams and that kind of thing to try and combat these things. And we may not necessarily be looking at things like this. So alongside of this can also, with all these neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut and affected by the enteric nervous system, it also impacts levels of cytokines in the body. Now, cytokines are inflammatory molecules, levels of those are actually increased when we eat terrible food. And I'm all for balance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying never eat the pizza or never eat the ice cream or never eat the whatever it is. There's a time and a place for balance as well in this equation. But, just watching that, and it goes back to that whole thing of, balance. And, are you eating well 80% of the time? Are you eating well 20% of the time? And it's that scale effect that you get. So, how can we best balance those scales in our favor to help with the way we're feeling, help with our energy levels? Because let's face it, when we're feeling stressed and anxious, our energy levels are often quite low as well, which can then be a double-edged sword, because we then reach for the terrible food because we want an energy hit. So we reach for the lollies, we reach for the sugar, we reach for all those kinds of things, which then sends us into a little vicious sort of cycle. So something that I'm really passionate about, and, I just like to share these kinds of things, because inflammation and gut health affect so many more things than what we often think about. And I think it's something that we should think about a lot more to help balance out our mood, to help balance out our mind, I guess, mood, and also to help balance out our skin. Because let's face it, how many of us have also noticed hormones, and also when we eat a lot of oily food, we might get breakouts and that kind of thing as well. So it affects so much more, and they are all interlinked. But not only does food affect what we're or how we're feeling and that kind of thing, but how we're feeling could also affect our digestion. So it's, once again, it goes both ways. So that vagus nerve that I was talking about before, it sends bi-directional messages up and down. So if we're feeling terrible, in actual fact, like I was saying, if we tend to reach for more junk food and that kind of thing, what our body actually needs and what it's calling for, and what will actually help, is more nutritious food to help us overcome that. So 2 directional signals, and when we're feeling a bit stressed and anxious, we might want to help make life easier for our gut and for our body. So eating the nutritious food, looking after your self-care, making sure you're moving properly, making sure you're going out for that walk, getting that fresh air, and all those things that are really going to nourish and look after your body. So just a couple of little things. I know it's something that I never really used to think about before, but when you do think about these things, it can actually really help to improve your health, and also help you to feel better, help you to have more energy, and help you to have, well, as I always like to say in my business, help you to really have that strong mind, healthy body, and glowing skin. So thank you so much, guys.